press that, and we are recording, which is exciting. This is good evening, everyone. It's episode 242 of Rail Natter. It is today. This is a pre-record, but it's a pre-record only by a few hours because for various reasons. Luke is in the green room, the metaphorical green room. Luke Agbaimoni is here. Everyone, Luke has joined us again for a wonderful tube mapper project for those familiar with his nom de plume. We're talking about Luke's new book, Contrast on the London Underground. I'm extremely excited to get it. In fact, no, I shall read the full proper title, which is Contrast, Photography on the London Underground. And it's all about contrasting themes. And as with the previous two Luke episodes, Luke and I are Luke has picked out, hand-selected a kind of a really nice little sample of images. And we're going to go through each one, talk about them, enjoy them. I'm going to just kind of, wax lyrical about how much I love Luke's photography and how much it captures, and it's going to be lovely, and then we'll talk about books a little bit. So anyone who's a budding author, we'll also talk a little bit about books at the end as well for in the kind of the post-amble, because I really want to ask Luke about the process. Luke has now done 3 of these, and we need to talk about that and how that looks and works. But without further... So yeah, and the book we're talking about, so it's in the background, but here it is, Contrast, Photography on the London Underground. It's yet again another beautiful... In fact, I'm holding the physical copy here. It's very nice, which I'll wang around in a moment, but this is the cover here in photo form. This is a fab photo. I mean, you know like
where it is?
Is this? You can stand on a platform and take a picture through a hole. Where is it though? So this is that a Bakerloo line train?
Looks like it.
It looks like it. Yeah. Where would this be then? Is this? The southern end? No, it can't be the southern end because the southern end's all in a tunnel. Northern end. So it must be the northern end of the Bakerloo line. Where's it popping out? Where is this then? I don't know.
It's Kensal Green.
Interesting. Okay. Right.
And when you get to the station, you've got at the platform ends, you can see 2 long tunnels approaching the station.
Yeah.
And it's just a really marvelous view. So you've got this weird shot that you can see the train arriving. And when you take this picture, it's weird because it looks like the train has got thought bubbles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? That is true. It's got like a little thought bubble going out. And you can sort of you could take this picture. In fact, I could very easily hijack, in fact, you know what, we have the technology. I could very easily hijack this image, do this with it, wait a minute, and do a little bubble here. Yeah, there you go. What is the train thinking? Well, we don't know. We could just do a big question mark.
What would trains think?
What would trains think about? We'll never know. We're going to put 100 here, and we're going to put. There we go. This is on the fly podcast editing right here. Look, there we go. What is
pretty amazing? Your technical skills have blown my mind. But I really love that image. That's hilarious.
It's so good. It's really good.
You gotta save that, and then we'll tweet or
caption competition. Yeah, exactly. So so the book is it's just beautiful as ever. I can spend so much time just sat going through. It's worth saying, and I'll flick the book up in a minute. It's worth saying at front end, it's a beautiful book. Like it's been really nicely, it's been very nicely set. They're very, not just the photography, but they are just very nicely set out books. Very, very visually appealing. Really nicely set up. There's a bit of sort of it's as ever the imagery and also your accompanying captions are very poetic. It's lovely. It's gorgeous. And this is what we're here to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into the book. Let's leave our little Metro Camel 1973 stock. I'm not an underground expert. People can laugh at me. Let's leave our knackered old Bakerloo stock.
I know more about. Yeah, I'm not going to be the best at order models of trains. But yeah, it is a 1972 stock. But yeah, I'm not the best at order models of trains. But just I can.
Enough. These ones. Well, the thing is, these ones are particularly distinctive because they're so knackered. I travel on the Bakerloo line quite a bit, and they're so. I have a fondness for it, but also they look so knackered. Also, I love this shot because as a track person, you can see how wibbly wobbly the 3rd and 4th rails are because they don't need to be straight. But then also you can see how not quite as wibbly wobbly, but still a little bit wibbly wobbly the actual running rails are. So it's just a fab shot. It's really very nice. And so with me continuing to waffle endlessly on, no, I'm going to stop the waffle. I am going to start the show by saying, everyone, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. And as the In-City 225 fades away, there she goes. No, it's an absolute delight to start. And so the book comes in sort of themes, these sort of thematic, you've split the book in sort of thematic chapters, which we're going to get stuck into momentarily. But first, before we do that, we actually have to say hello. Luke, hello. It's really lovely to see you. The last time we saw each other, you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I was recording the Christmas episode of Rail Natter last night, and for anyone who can't, I just want people to see how much of this bottle of Harvey's Sherry, sponsor me, is left. So I don't know how I managed that, but I'm feeling reasonably good today. Actually, I don't know how I can drink.
I am impressed. It's at least 2 days of a hangover for me if I consume a certain amount of alcohol.
Lots of alcohol. Yeah. So like, if I had one beer. I'm written off now. This specific alcohol, by which I mean literally Harvey's Sherry in the blue bottle, I can somehow drink a bottle of it and actually feel okay. Dr. David Turner, I went to a Christmas party with Dr. David Turner years ago and went through 2 of these, and somehow, okay, so I fell asleep on the bus and ended up in Croydon, which admittedly was embarrassing. But other than that, I felt all right the next day. So yeah, this is my tip to dads: is discover the alcohol that you can drink. Or any parents, to be honest, discover the alcohol you can drink that doesn't cause you pain, and then drink a lot of it. It's terrific. Anyway, enough of that. Peek behind the curtain for all of our parasocial fans. The last time we saw each other was in person. I was delighted to say. Thank you so much for coming along to my book launch. It's an absolute delight. It was a really nice evening in a cool venue.
At the Brunel Museum.
Yes.
And it was lovely because it's the first time I've probably been in there since I was like 8 or something.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, it was lovely. And you know, when I was 8, I didn't even know the significance of it.
Yeah.
It's such a great location because, you know, you're traveling on the railway and there's this great architectural, historic piece that you just travel through on the train that has, in a way, no real relevance to the railway, but it's just been adopted by the railway, and I just love it. I love that piece of history that you just sort of travel.
It's fab. It's just well worth a visit. They will be. I think they're still open until Christmas. I think in the new year they will be closing for a bit for a very welcome bit of money spending and refurbishment, which will be great. It was a really nice evening. It was nice to have a few of the patron supporters there as well, which is nice. So shout out to those of you who came along who are my patron supporters to the kind of the publication day book launch. It's fab. More news on book tour later, but this isn't about my book tonight. It's about Luke and your beautiful book, which I have here. Here it is. Yay. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. As all of you, I have all of them here. There's very quick and easy access is Symmetry. There we go. I find it very rapidly. Behind me, which is also a delightful book, really, really beautiful. But this is marvelous. It's just lovely. Like I almost see if I can find a picture that we're going to do tonight, so that I don't give the game away. But I just want to show an example of how. Actually, you know what? This is a familiar, because this is a picture that I think we've talked about before, but you've set it into a different context, so it's worthy of its mission. But I just want to show people how nicely set this book is. It's very, very nicely set. It really, really. Gorgeous book. I'm going to put it over there and hope that it stays. Don't fall off my increasingly wonky shelf. So there's a huge pile over there that I don't want anyone to see. Although people have, I picked up a few objects from it last episode, and people are like, "How much stuff have you got in that pile?" I don't want to tell anyone. It's a good job that camera's not working. Anyway, Luke. For starters, some people might come to Rail Natter fairly recently and not know that we've done 2 previous episodes with you, which they should go find them. They're great. But also, Luke, they might not know who you are. So, you know, I still refer to you as digital designer, author, and photographer. But I'll let you give yourself a brief introduction, so people, perhaps people who aren't familiar with your work and what you do.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Luke Agbaimoni, also known as the Tube Mapper, and I've got a project where I'm capturing photography at every station and stop on the London Underground tube map. Briefly, the reason why the project started was because I used to like taking pictures of sunrises and sunsets. Petrified because my child was being born and I knew I wouldn't be allowed to go out anymore, and I think Gareth relates to this. I decided to take pictures of my journey to work and home, and then the project started to chime with people. People said, "Oh, I love that station. This is where this happened." And you realise how it's not just rail enthusiasts or that like pictures of the underground. It's also you've got a good array. People who like tourism, people on the spectrum, people who like history, people,
commuters. People who just interact with the railway as a kind of a mundane part of their lives, but realize they have that sort of connection with it. And this is. And part of the reason I love the project, Luke, is I realize I've interrupted you introducing yourself, which is classic me.
That's basically it.
But apart from the fact that you have these beautiful kind of poetic images that you capture, these moments, these really important historically significant moments as well, because you're capturing slices of a railway that, the instant that you capture is, as with any part of history, is gone. But particularly in an infrastructure that's constantly evolving and developing, you are capturing these unique moments. What I love about that view, that interest that your project has captured, is in a way it captures the importance of the railway and the station infrastructure as us running the railway as well, in that it's not just for the rail enthusiasts, it's not just for the history buffs, it's actually for everyone, it's for all these groups. And so you capture that interest of people in the railway, then you kind of build a railway that's more inclusive and better for everyone as well. So that's one of many reasons why I absolutely love your project and love the work that you do. Is it's glorious. And so another book means another series of little stories that you've thankfully brought with you. You've brought your little portfolio, a little folder under your arm that we will now share with everyone today. We'll spread them out on the kind of the virtual table, and kind of go through them. So the first theme that we've got, the first kind of chapter theme of the book, is Underground, Overground, which.
Sorry.
yeah, this is it. So watch out. Yeah, don't ask anything. Just don't think about wombles. Just ignore the wombles. Don't worry about the wombles. So we start with, and as ever, I will try my very hardest to audio describe these images for those who are listening to this in audio only. So now this portal, which, fun enough, I can't exactly remember which portal it is, but this portal specifically is one that I use. Actually, it's not this. No, it can't be the same portal as the previous one, because these trains are much newer. The rolling stock's much newer. This portal is one that I use a lot because this is an image I use when I'm teaching people about loading gauge, about gauge clearance, because this is such a perfect illustration of here is the train, and here's the train only just fitting inside the tunnel. So it's a really lovely picture to explain what that concept is from an engineering perspective, but also it's a picture that. So this is a picture of a portal. You've got two tunnels. The train's kind of one arriving with its white lights and one departing with its red lights. You can see the driver, although kind of partially obscured by reflection. And you've got this kind of, you've got the tracks kind of emerging and disappearing, and you've also got this wall of brick that the trains are almost emerging out of. It's almost like a contrived scene at this point. But also what I find interesting is not just the trains, but it's all the other stuff sneaking, like creeping, like tendrils creeping their way into the tunnel as well. All the the equipment related to electrification, related to signaling, related to telecoms, related to lighting, all these systems, all these cables working their way in like some sort of creature. That I also find quite interesting. So this scene, it's a scene that's quite simple, but in terms of the symmetry of the two tunnels, but also you've got all this sort of overlay, all the greebling, if you like, the word they use to describe when they make models for sci-fi films in the 1970s, the greebling that is the real world, kind of overlaid onto this sort of quite simple, quite geometric image. I love it. It's great. So tell us about this. Tell us about this one. Tell us, firstly, remind me where this portal actually is, despite the fact that I use the image all the time. And then, tell us a bit about the image.
I think it's Hendon Central. I always get confused with the first image, which is Kensal Green. But it is Hendon Central, yes. Yeah, and if you go to the end of the platform at Hendon Central, you can see the train sort of go through these ridiculous tight tunnels.
Yeah.
And when you look at the portals, you kind of, every time, it's almost like, are they actually going to fit?
Yes.
It's pretty scary. And I actually chose this image specifically for you because of the implications as an engineer.
This is it, yeah.
Because it's what you call it's very well engineered, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean this is gauging in action. As for the real heads know that this is called gauge clearance analysis, or the process by which we answer the question, will it fit, is called gauge clearance analysis. And this picture is one that I use to explain that process. Literally, a version of this image, a royalty-free version of this image, is one that I, although not as beautifully taken, I must say, is one I use in my lectures about engineering, about gauge clearance analysis. So this is familiar fare to me, but there's so much going on here. You've got the aging of, as I say, if you kind of strip the color out of this, it's a very geometrically simple image, and that you've got two circles. sort of they're nicely balanced in the image. It's beautiful, that kind of symmetry of the image. Contrasting, if you like, with, and I know that the theme of this is overground, underground, but in this situation, the contrast is like the simplicity of the geometry combined with the real complexity of the real world. You've got the aging of the brickwork, you've got all the wires and cables, you've got the track, you've got the kind of the bits of discarded rail in the 10-foot there. You've got all these complexities and sort of things that you as soon as you sharpen your eyes, you see all the messiness of the real world, of the real railway, and for me that's a delight of this image. Plus the fact that you managed to snap trains coming and going at precisely the same location in the tunnel, which is quite impressive as well. It's
I
enhanced
the one on the left because it was like it was more in shadow. So
interesting. Okay, so a little bit of cheek.
I've got a video of it, so I can show you that of it coming in. So
cheeky bit of moving magic. Lucky. Yeah. That's it. No, it's fab. I love this. It's great. And again, once again, the good thing about these sort of longer lens photos is you get to look at the bumpiness of the track. And in this case, you can see that these TfL maintenance team, those joints are a little bit dipped. You might want to go out and do a bit of ballast packing under that one. So yes, that's fab. But then contrast. The theme is contrast to the book. So contrast that with this cat. So
I had so many other overground shots to choose because most of the stops on the tube map are actually overground anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's in itself the term underground is contrast for the fact that it's mostly overground. But yeah, this cat shot was quite funny. So this is taken at Woodside. You wouldn't guess this anyway, would you? I just gave
No, I literally wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't be able to guess. I realised that we do a guessing game for every photo, and I've forgotten to do that. But no, tell us about this. I'll then audio describe it after you've kind of gone through. But yeah, so we have
I'll tell you what. You introduce it, and then I'll tell it.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a nice story, but it's quite nice if you tell it, and then I can tell the story.
So in this image, the most striking element of this image, and again, contrast on contrast on contrast, is a almost luminescently white cat in the forefoot. You'll be glad to know, well, firstly, that this is a tram system. So the driver of the tram can simply stop safely if the cat decides it's not going to move. But also the cat is making its way a reasonable lick across the tracks. So don't worry, the cat survives. There is no only mild peril in this image. Yeah, going around the curves of, and it is, by the way, I say tram, and we're talking about London because this is Luke, which means that there's only one thing this can be, which is a Croydon tram. Croydon Tramlink, as it used to be called. So yeah, you've got the trams. There is a tram on it approaching, a train running on tram tracks approaching on its way to Wimbledon, and with the overhead electrification above. The cat making its way in, it's in the forefoot, it's making its way across, and of course you've got this really nice sweeping bit of track, this lovely kind of sweeping curve of the tracks. I have to say the outer track is much more well maintained than the inner track, which is much more bumpy and shonky, but it's a tram, you can do that, it's fine. And we are decidedly not in a tunnel here, although the photo is being taken through an overbridge. But yes, no, this is out in the open. There are lots of trees around. There's quite a lot of foliage in the track as well. Although people like that with trams, don't they? They like their grass growing through the tracks for trams. So maybe this is absolutely fine. But yeah, there's a lot of green. So one of the things I meant to say with the cover of the book, actually, one of the things that you enjoy doing is taking photographs that have that are often monochromatic, and this isn't like you've not like physically digitally altered these. You like images that are quite monochromatic, other than a single sort of flourishing main sort of third color. So quite a neutral, if not black and white image, but with a striking color in it. The cover of the book has that, of course, that striking red front of the underground vehicle. In this case, we've got a black and white image, including the cat that's very white, with greens. You've got these lovely greens of the foliage and indeed of the train. It's lovely. It's really nice.
Yeah, this is what you call, everyone has like a lucky photo that they take. Even if you're not a photographer, you'll have like a moment that you'll take a picture and like everything aligns. And with this shot, I just got this new zoom lens and I was trying it out. And there's an old station house at Woodside tram stop, which is where this is taken, and so the trams go beneath it.
Oh yeah,
And I wanted to get a capture shot of a tram, just basically being enveloped in dark shadow as it approached the tunnel. And so I lined everything up, got my camera settings, but just as I was waiting for the train to arrive, suddenly this brilliant white cat. I like brilliant white. That's paint color, but it's a good way to
yeah,
describe the cat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it is. It's just shockingly white.
It looks like it's been dipped in radon. It's quite striking, yeah.
So I was walking across the tracks, and so immediately I freaked out, and I missed the initial steps of the cat on the track because I was like, oh my god, the cat's gonna die, and I'm not someone who takes pictures of tragedy. Sorry, I won't do it. So I was just watching for a while to see if the cat was okay, and then when I realised that the cat was a pro track crosser,
it knew what it was doing. Done this before.
Knew exactly what it was doing. Then I started to take pictures of it crossing, and my settings, I didn't even alter the settings; they were completely perfect for the shot.
Oh, lovely! Because you'd lined up, you'd got your focus, you got your focal length right, you got it all beautiful, and the cat just sort of the cat got the blocking perfectly. It knew exactly where to stand to be in shot and in focus. Beautiful.
But it's perfect. It's in perfect position. Look,
no pun intended.
If it was higher up in the shadow, then it wouldn't be as good. It's like
yes, exactly. Yeah, it really has perfectly lined it.
It's in the shadow. It's like so perfect that it's one of those so those opportunities that as a photographer you're so excited about, and you're like, and then you freak out immediately when you take it, like, oh my goodness, have I nailed the shot? You look at it, and then the next you're freaking out when you get home. Is this image going to be safe? It's not going to be corrupted. I really can't wait to develop this picture.
Yeah, and so this image, it's worth saying, just the shadow cast by the overlying structure is perfectly aligned with the paws of our puss. So that it looks almost like it's walking along the edge of the shadow. It's lovely. Yeah. It's really very good. It's very good indeed. So I love that. It's a lovely image, and this is the theme. This is the way we're going to do today's episode. Is that we're going to have these kind of pairs of images that kind of give you an idea, a little taste, a amuse-bouche, a little sample of what these chapters in the book kind of go through. So, underground, overground, lovely stuff. The next theme is timeless and futuristic. So this is an interesting sort of contrast, and we're going to think about this contrast by looking at, again, two images. Now, here is our timeless image, I would guess. So this is our timeless image, and what we're seeing here is a fascinating shot from a framing perspective, because it appears, and catch me if I'm wrong on this, have you stuck the lens of the camera out through a mesh at your feet of one of the walkways over the low, one of those bridges that goes over the platform from kind of the inter-platform interchange? Because that's kind of what it looks like. And again, I love long lens for showing imperfections and perfections is one of the themes of your previous sort of publications, and I love the imperfections that you get when you look long lens down any structure. Even the most perfect curve, when you look at it with the human eye, use a long lens and you start seeing these imperfections, and this quite nicely captures it. But that's not what this picture is about, really. It's more about, also it's got quite nice depth of focus, so you've got a little bit of an almost model railway feel to it a little bit, which is quite nice, which adds a little bit to that timelessness. But what's in here is apart from a little bit of signage here and there, actually what you're seeing is a station that has been reasonably untouched for a very long time. You've got kind of the 50 pence piece sort of effect of the train coming through. This is where is this actually? Let me see if I can read on its side. Heath Street. No, no. Is that right?
Yes, it is Heath Street.
Yeah, Heath Street.
But it's not Heath Street. That's what the station was originally called. So basically, now all your underground enthusiasts and followers, we go, how don't you know?
I'm being shouted at.
They know all these facts.
Because I can see that it says Heath Street in the tiling design.
But then you can guess it from Heath Street.
Yeah, but then the actual station is Heathstead? No, I can't quite read. Can I guess it? This is my London knowledge is not good enough on this bit of railway. What is I could bear it because it's long lens. The running in boards that have the what is it? Jubilee line? I can't quite tell
you.
Yeah, go on, tell me. Put me out of my misery.
It's Hampstead.
Oh, is it Hampstead? I was seeing STAD, and I was seeing the first bit, and like, Hampstead? Is it Hampstead? But okay, yeah. So Heath Street became Hampstead. because Hampstead Heath, I guess. Yeah, that would do it, I suppose. Yeah, so this is a view down the curved platforms of the former Heath Street, now Hampstead Station. And you can see everything's a bit dusty. There's a haze, actually. There's a haze in the station that's quite interesting. But again, you've got... And there's... It's worth saying, there is a single lone figure shuffling their way towards the train. It might be late. I don't know when the photo was taken. It could be late in the evening, and they're kind of a bit tired after a busy day, and they're on their way home, shuffling towards the train to hop on and get to where they need to be. But as I say, this image could be from any time in the last 100 years almost. It's if you kind of ignore some of the illuminated signage and the CCTV cameras, there's very little that's actually changed in this station for a very, very long time, and I kind of love that, actually. So there is a timelessness to this image. Luke, I don't know if hopefully I've done justice to it and described what.
No, you have. You've actually probably described it better than I would. I love this shot because the angle, which you guess is taken through the mesh.
Yeah, it's very high up, so it's an unusually high up image. You're almost like, how would you get this? People will be like, how did you get this shot? Well, there are ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just unusual to see it from that angle. The single focus of the traveller is wearing pretty nondescript clothing, so that sort of helps with the aging of the picture.
Yeah.
There is some signage, yes, that sort of makes it old, but it's still, the station still has that sort of old feel to
Absolutely.
it. And I love the tiling. Yeah, so I loved tiling. And what is there a special name for the sort of styling around the portal entrances?
Yes, actually, there is. Can I remember it? No, absolutely not. Maybe I'll maybe quickly search my civil engineering standard and pop that up in post production. There'll be a thing that will ping. There'll be some text that will ping in the middle of the screen now. Voussoir. It's voussoir. That is the word. It refers to the structural element as much as it refers to the kind of the facing shape of the stone. When it's got the beveled edges, as is quite common. But no, voussoir is the name. It's we use it in railway civil engineering as much as it's used as an architectural term. Voussoir. About what that's called. I've got several French words in my head that I think is what that's called, but I'm not gonna use them because they're probably all wrong. So I'm going to Google it and or not Google it. I'll look up my civil engineering standard and tell you. But there's something nice about that, right? There's a bit of, it's kind of quite a grand sort of keystone sort of looking sort of structure around the portal as the train sort of is being sucked into it, and again, it is very ageless. Like, it would not take much effort to dress this set to look like something in the 1940s or 1950s, or even earlier than that.
Give him a hat, put a hat on his head,
pop a hat on his head, and away you go. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Put a hat on his head and roll his trousers down, and then you're away. It's lovely. It really is lovely. And then you contrast that with. Andrea is joining us again. I'm very glad that she's joining us and doing, once again, her physicality in the images that you take with her dancing. Her physicality lends a joy and a delight to images. Well, this image is spectacular. So in this case, we have all the previous images have been landscape. This is a portrait image, and necessarily so, because we have. How to even describe this? So I love this photo on so many levels. There is so much going on. You have, you've got angles that are set, in contrast to each other. So you've got angles going, vanishing, the vanishing point in one direction, and another vanishing point crossing over it in the other direction. That's one thing. So geometrically, this is a fascinating image. Because there's several different vanishing points into overlapping each other. Then you have the visuals of what we see, which is in the ceiling. You have a simplified, almost jigsaw puzzle London Underground roundel. So the blue strip with the red roundel underneath it. That's in the ceiling, and also quite nicely set with this sort of paneling sort of style, which kind of nicely sets it up with the kind of the white the kind of the white reflective panel within the center of the roundel. Directly below it, and set at the same angle to the image, or rather set to the same vanishing point, is a metal sort of cast version in the floor of the same pattern, kind of directly below it in the same position and orientation, set around by a very different sort of style to the ceiling, but on the floor it almost looks like a kind of a limestone sort of old stone, like castle floor type sort of arrangement they've got. Really, that fair architecturally really quite nice. we've not even got halfway through this image, folks, and how much delight there is going on here. So in terms of I'm getting to the good bit last, which is why I'm building up to it. So other than the fact we know Andrea's taken this sort of angelic, almost like an angel being lifted, and we'll get to why that's pertinent in a second, pose in midair, by the way, which she so wonderfully manages to do. It's worth saying, before I get to the really most spectacular part of this image, it's worth saying that this it's an other than Andrea and other than a small bench in the background that's soft focus and kind of not that noticeable, and it's quite Spartan anyway, there's not much in the way of like furniture and busyness to this. It's quite an interestingly empty space. But what makes this a stunning image is that the exposure of it's daylight outside, and the way that and framing Andrea's dance move, Andrea's position, her pose, is the front door to the station. But it's quite an open door, dark brick either side with some kind of Portland cement below. The brightness outside into a darker, dingier space means that you get this shaft of light approaching the camera, and it reflects both in the shiny stone floor and in the paneling on the ceiling. And it's basically the perfect width of the white of the inside of the roundel, which means that it looks like Andrea is being lifted by some angelic portal or some kind of sort of steampunk sort of illuminatory object or some act of God lifting her from one portal to another. And she's sort of ascending to the heavens, and it's just this incredible image as a result of this wonderful behavior of the light in this space. I mean, so far my favorite image, actually, I have to say, Luke, this is my favorite image so far in the ones you've shown me. I love this. Yeah, it's so good.
So this is, again, like, I always put my humor into the shots. Do you know where this is first?
I don't actually know. I don't know where this is.
Yeah, it's so easy to overlook as well. It's such a small detail that if you're rushing into a station, you'll overlook. Quick guess. Just don't take long on it. Just random guess.
What colours of signage do I see behind me? Oh golly, is it one of the newer overground stations somewhere, or is it? It is a newer station, because this looks like it's newer.
It's not new. It's not.
Oh, isn't it?
Really.
I have no idea then.
It's Pimlico.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh,
So
that's fascinating.
It's interesting.
What?
So
Where?
basically in the futuristic section is full of like a few of Jubilee line extension stations and some Docklands Light Railway as well. But this picture, I chose it because it's just funny. But I remember the first time I saw this, instantly when I saw the two roundels sort of opposite each other, I just thought Star Trek and someone being beamed up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's the theme of this. And so I've got this joke that if you go to this roundel at Pimlico Station and stand on it and say the name of any station or stop on the tube map, you'll be teleported there. You have to say it 3 times. It does work, apparently.
Click your heels together as well. It's worth saying, if anyone wants to know the attention to detail that Luke puts into these shots, obviously Andrea is wearing red and blue. Like, obviously she is dressed to ensure that she is matching the environment, as always she is. It's just fab. I love this one. And again, all of your, well, not all, but many of your images have, I wouldn't say tongue-in-cheek, but like there's a little bit of there's a twinkle, there's like a twinkle in your eye of like, no, folks, don't take this too seriously. These are fun spaces. This is a fun project. There's delight being had here, whether it's explicit or implicit in the image. Delight is being had here, and that's one of the reasons I love your photos so much, because there's always delight. There's joy in this imagery, and this picture really captures it. So I love this. I know I'm gushing, and people might be like, "Oh, all right, chill out," but no, I am. People know that my enthusiasm is genuine, and this is a situation where I could fizz about this image. It's just fab. It's just brilliant. I love it. I love it so much. So a really nice example of the contrast between you. You have the kind of the dustiness, the soft focus of the previous image. That it's got that that timelessness comes from it being this sort of slightly lower contrast. You've got this kind of a situation where it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is a space well used, compared to this where you've got these quite aggressive vanishing points. These really quite vigorous kind of images of the vanishing points and the colors and the contrasts and the actual imagery of the motion of the picture as well. Just fantastic. Yeah, a lovely contrast between these two. I love that. My
quick summary of the sort of futuristic timeless thing is that basically the London Underground allows you to be a time traveler. For one instance, you're like traveling in the sort of like pre-1900s, and then you can see sort of a world that existed before, and then
Yeah.
next thing you're whizzed into the future of the Elizabeth line.
Yeah.
You know, with modern architecture. So it is fantastic, sort of living and breathing museum that we travel through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, like, traveling on the subsurface lines, you know, you can be on the same train that runs through, like, Great Portland Street, Baker Street, you know, with its like cut and cover and those shafts of light that come in from above and the old brick and that very old feeling, you know, 1860s sort of infrastructure, and then a few stops around the corner at Westminster, floating,
I love
you know,
Westminster.
40 meters.
There
Just,
well.
yeah,
Westminster's like a world, isn't it? It's like a dystopian future.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's just fab. If it wasn't so busy, it would appear in more films. It's such an interesting space.
You're right.
So we continue our odyssey because the next theme is nightlight, daylight, which does make me think of that old viral YouTube video of the bird with its wings going nighttime, daytime. But no, nightlight, daylight, and this is. Yeah, I mean this. People can before I even skip into the images, people can start visualizing some of these themes. But you picked two. There's two images that you picked. Again, we're in a portrait image here, and we talk about color and your use of color. Well, in this instance, the colors are, well, it's not sodium lighting anymore because we don't really have many sodium lights, but it's the kind of the equivalent of sodium lighting. You know, it's outside, it's nighttime, but also long exposure with a bus being kind of smeared across our shot with the nice and crisp and old-fashioned kind of London transport era roundel in the background saying Underground above the entrance to Leicester Square Station. With a new roundel around the side. And again, these are picked out. This is an image that's nice for a variety of reasons, including the fact that we've got the reflections. So we've got the mirrored reflections in the wet ground as well. So really quite nice. But again, colours. This is reds. It's reds. It's oranges. It's kind of gruff. What you'd almost call them ochre yellows, sort of these hues of red that you have here in this image, with some people kind of again the crisp foreground interest is that you've got this couple kind of making their way from their shop, you know, going about their business. Actually, it might not be a couple; they might just be stood next to each other waiting to cross the road. But yeah, you've got these two people kind of making their way across the road, or about to make their way across the road, and then you've got these picked out. So there are a lot of vertical lines here, so it's very crisp vertical lines, but you've also got these kind of picked out, the vertical lines are crisp, the horizontal lines are blurred by the fact that you've got the reflections of the bus. So again, a really nice contrast in the use of geometry in this image that I really enjoy. That makes this one quite a delight. Yeah, no, I love this. What's the story in this one? What kind of had you set the shot up for a long time, or was this a bit of a quick grasp it type situation?
This is. I love this image. This was actually the cover of one of my calendars. I think. Maybe
oh, nice.
2 years ago or something. Yep. I didn't make the symmetry book because it was. I took it while doing a symmetry book, but obviously it's not symmetrical. So
yes.
It's not the only. I don't just take symmetrical photos. It's just that at that time that's what I was focusing on.
Yeah.
But yeah, this picture, my wife says it looks like a painting, and I don't disagree with her.
It does. It does.
And when I sort of started the Tube Mapper project, I perfected this technique of taking handheld long exposures. So I never use a tripod or anything like that.
Okay, yeah.
I just sort of take a sort of nice stance, sort of
wide legs and stable.
Wide legs, and then take a big, long, deep breath, and then take a shot. Put the camera in burst mode. Then normally the first button will shake the camera slightly, but then the next shots are completely static and straight. And then you also have to hope and pray that your subjects stay straight as well.
Yes, yeah.
And so it is a bit of luck, but obviously the better you get at it, it increases your chances of you being lucky to nail the shot. And this is one of the shots that I've never been able to replicate a shot like this. It's quite unique, and I love it. It's obviously Leicester Square Station. Would have you guessed it? If not, it's quite. I recognise the station, but I do look at stations all the time. So.
I suppose it's relatively speaking, the Charing Cross entrance to Leicester Square is quite nondescript, but there are enough features here that I think people would pick out, even if it didn't say the words Leicester Square on the little blue sign above the door. I'm increasingly a bit of a capable London head at identifying things, but no, I'm not nearly as good as a resident who travels on this system every day. But it's a glorious shot. And then to contrast this, so nightlight. Well, we have to have some daylight. But what's lovely about this is that you've got the night image with color and the day image in black and white. Now You're not someone who just uses black and white because it pretends, it makes it allows you to like get away with images that otherwise wouldn't be that remarkable with black and white. That's not how you use black and white. You use black and white quite sparingly, I find, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, you don't just go, oh yeah, I just do everything black and white because it looks edgy. No, you choose black and white very carefully, and this is an example where it's so successful. So we are looking at, and I know I'm talking a lot about geometry. It's not just because I'm a track engineer and obsessed with geometry, but this is, again, meeting of angles. There are lots of angles going on here. So you have the horizontals of the concrete. This is the DLR, by the way. We're looking at an image of the DLR. And the DLR is descending. It's a ramp. It's descending down. Actually, what's quite nice is in the background, I believe you can see the shapes of some of the buildings in the city. Actually, the square mile, I believe, is visible in the very, very far distance. I think you can possibly even see the cheese grater in amongst it. I might be wrong, though. But there's some very tall buildings being picked out in the background that you can see. The DLR train dropping down towards us. And it's a black and white image. What we've got is in the bottom right-hand corner of the image is the foreground, and essentially our vanishing point is going from that bottom corner up to the center left-hand part of the frame. So that's our overall vanishing point. But contrasting that, the geometry of our line, the classic image of darkness with the picked out shiny running bands of the rails disappearing off into the distance with the train approaching. But you have the solid, thick bands of dark and light set by the fact the sun is shining down through these concrete sort of transverse supports as the train kind of goes through this long portal into a tunnel, and it's set to, so you've got horizontals of the dark shapes of the concrete with this interesting stucco texture that you get from concrete. So they're dark shapes, but actually as you look closer you get this kind of an interest in the spalling and the kind of the patterns on the concrete, contrasted with the thin, so those are quite broad shapes. Then you've got the thin vertical lines of the concrete retaining wall of the cutting structure, and across that are the shapes, the shadows set by the concrete transverse beams that set these broad alternating light dark shapes that spread across, and also the angle stretches as they get close to the foreground as well, and then set with their own little horizontal patterns as they hit the sort of troughing route and safe walking route next to the railway. So lots of angles, lots of almost dazzle camouflage type patterning going on here. It's almost like the dazzle pattern you'd see on like a World War I sort of battleship. And the train is approaching through it. And also what's quite nice is that because of the shadow the shadows themselves having a kind of an angle when they hit the from the vertical cutting face, the vertical sort of retaining wall onto the walkway, they almost look like arrows pointing the direction the train is supposed to be going, which I quite like as well. So as ever, I'm picking out a million things in these images, but I'm trying to paint the picture for those listening and not viewing. But I love this image. It's really nice. It's fab. So firstly, I suppose the question is, where do you have to go to get this view? Is the question.
There's actually two stations where you can get this shot. I can't remember the other one, but this one is taken at Cyprus, and obviously this is a weather dependent shot. So one of the things about the Tube Mapper project, which makes it an ongoing project, not one that I can just complete, is that there are certain shots that you can only get in certain types of weather.
Yeah.
And so this one is taken at, so this is Cyprus DLR. And I just happened to be taken for that day. I think I was actually taking pictures of the DLR because it's my favorite line on the tube map by a huge margin, and the sun was shining, and it completely transforms this location. Like, it tells you how just light makes this into something spectacular. And when you see it, it's like, oh my goodness, look how great that is. And it feels like this arrow being thrust forward into and it's heading for the corner. So everything is really nice. And as you said, it is a good example of visual geometry. So I'm really proud. The moment I took it, the moment I took this shot, I knew it was an instant one for the calendar, and hopefully one for a book if I was going to do a book at the time, because I didn't know I was. But yeah, it was instantly in one of my calendars, because it's like, it's just I absolutely love it.
It's
I'm
it's
really
terrific.
proud of it.
It's fab. It's really, really good, and just really again, it's like what. the engineering here might be, on a flat grey day, the engineering here might be interpreted as mundane or as at best perfunctory. As you say, as soon as you throw some light into the mix, all of a sudden this structure is not quite. It's very beautiful. There's a beauty to this. The only thing I would love to do is sit and get a time lapse video, watching those stripes work their way as the sun moves, watch them work their way across the cutting edge. But as you say, it requires some quite unique conditions to get this
this
lighting.
You have to wait for summer now in order to nail that. Because we're not going to you're not going to get that amount of sunshine.
No, not for a long while. Absolutely, but no, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So. We've been enjoying ourselves so much. We've gone quite long. I mean, we're still within the hour, but we've gone quite long. But that's fine. So I think what is in our penultimate sort of theme: curves and straight lines. So our first image. Now, I talked about that twinkle in your eye, Luke, when you take certain photos. Here are some hands, and those hands appear to be playing, much like my daughter loves to do at the moment. Those hands appear to be playing the keyboard of this platform tiling pattern at one of this. I'm trying to work out which station. This looks like possibly another Bakerloo station, actually. I can't quite tell which station this is. I think it is Bakerloo. In fact, it is Bakerloo. Which station is it, though? Ooh.
You will kick yourself. The thing that I like most about this photo is that there is no way that you've never been to this station. And so when I show this picture to people, the first thing is they're like, no. I've been there hundreds of times, or I've been there today. It's so ridiculous, because it's one of those things that sometimes things are so in your face that you can't see them.
That you don't even spot them. Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of those. So the tiling pattern looks like a keyboard stretching off into the distance on this fairly tightly curved platform. The train is arriving, of course, to give us that additional motion and dynamism to the picture. This platform, God, so I'm looking at the roundel where the text is all out of focus, which is my only hint as to working out where we are, because I'm so hopeless with these things. But this is, I think this is Bakerloo. It's not Elephant and Castle, is it?
No. Do you want me to tell you where it is?
Yeah, go on, put me out of my misery.
Waterloo.
It's, what? Is it?
I told you, and that's the reaction.
Really?
That's why I like this photo. The thing I like most about this photo is the fact that it's Waterloo Station, and when you tell people that, they just can't believe it. They're like, no. I mean, one thing, yes, it's normally quite busy. So if it's busy, you're not
true.
As much. And secondly, when the original artwork was done by an artist called Christopher Tippins, and originally when it was installed, you didn't have the regs to have the mind the gap and the bump. What would you call it?
The tactile paving and yes,
the tactile paving. So originally it was a bit more obvious because the whole pattern extended to the end of the platform, and it kind of curved. It was like a stylized piano rather than a real piano.
Yeah.
The key. I think the piano players in the audience.
Yeah, there are too many black keys here.
They'll know that the keys aren't laid out properly. So it was more of a sort of nod to sort of playful piano. But yeah, the tactile what do you call it? Tactile.
Yeah, tactile paving. The tactiles, the lumpy bits, and then the yellow line. Yeah, so like the alternating. In this case, you've got the situation where you've got white, black, sort of forever, which obviously works in the. It means it's more of a subtle nod to the keyboard pattern, right? Whereas if it was the kind of the twos and threes and the pattern of a kind of a chromatic keyboard, then it would be. You'd have a slightly different pattern of black and white or dark and light tiles.
Exactly.
But it's still, as soon as you've got. I mean, is this Andrea coming in and helping out?
No, okay? This is not Andrea. This is a musician and singer called Fiona Fay. So thank you, Fiona. She is she's a singer. She does singing. She's actually touring at the moment in this group called the Medieval Babes.
The Medieval Babes touring.
Seriously.
And
they
go
sing loads of carols, and they are very sort of gothic and medieval.
How interesting. But she came along to. Well, okay, that explains why. I mean, Andrea might also play the piano, but it's quite a success. It's quite a pianist's pose here, and that you can see that the fingers are quite well spread out
on her hands.
Yeah.
When we took a shot, she said, "My hands need to be at a certain angle, or otherwise we can't. It doesn't work."
So
we spent quite a long time trying to get the angle of her hands correct for the shot.
Yeah,
and obviously the keys are enormous even from this point of view. But
yes,
you wanted, you wanted the, you just wanted to get the feel of the piano. I think it's
really good.
It works. So
it's really good. It's really good fun. So it's a really fun image. It absolutely captures that fun of the abstract of the. It's a bit like I remember Andrea with her wings in the previous, in Symmetry and. Yeah, and it's the fun, the playfulness of those images is really a delight, and it's they're worthy part of the story and good fun. Contrast curves, so that's a curvy image, with now straight lines, because here we are on Crossrail. This is Good Maze, and this is, you can see our nice purple train in the kind of the mid ground on its way off to Shenfield. You can see. And what we have here is also reflections. So you have the reflection of the train, very obviously, in a puddle on the platform surface. Reflections of the straight lines are not perfectly lined up. So you have the columns, these older columns. This is an older station with a newer straight roof, it must be said, but sat on older columns and some older beams. Straight lines galore, though. So vertical, horizontal, and vanishing point lines. Straights galore. The only curvy things are actually kind of on the train, and a little bit of curve in the supports of the kind of the horizontal beams for the roof. Other than that, it's straight line, and the arches of the brick as well, disappearing off into the distance, which is very nice. But it's a fab, and again, this is one of your black, white, and one other color. That one other color being the purple of the purple train. So it's a really nice image. This one, I love it.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's one of those surprise shots when you don't actually reflect. One of the things that's quite nice with puddle reflections is that what can make a puddle reflection really dynamic is when it completes a shape. So like a half semicircle or a sort of curve going down is then completed when it's reflected the opposite way. So if you sort of cover half of the image, you can see that it's not as exciting, but once you sort of move your hand, you can see all the shapes have been completed. So visually you get this really sort of almost futuristic looking shot in a station that is
that's quite an old station. Absolutely. The combination of quite severe lighting and quite severe differences between dark and white, combined with that, as you say, the complete, the brick arches we talked about on the kind of the platform wall, you end up with these ovals. These are kind of extended circles working their way off into the distance, and that gives it, suddenly you've got a much more modern feel. Yeah, it's fab. It's really, actually, what's quite nice is that those circles with the kind of the painted grey band down the middle, those circles start looking like kind of roundels, which is quite nice.
So do you know what? I hadn't ever really thought that it does. Well, that would be a good design, wouldn't it? Like a long strip going across, and then loads of circles.
Yeah, so
on the platform. Go on TFL, if
TFL, get on it. That's it. And
it's patented.
That's it.
By Gareth Dennis. And
TM Rail Natter 2024. That's it. So no, it's lovely. It's another cracking shot. Really nice curves, straight lines, which brings us to our last theme: short exposure, long exposure. Now, I know what's about to come next, and you know what? I've got the sound of wings flapping in my ears, because this would make my daughter very excited, because she loves birds flapping about. This is a seagull. Here is an image of a seagull. But what's important about the seagull is that this seagull is in flight, and its wings have been captured in almost near perfect stillness. So it could be a taxidermy seagull that's been sort of elevated into shot through some sort of fishing wire. No, but this is not. It's a bird in flight with its wings wrapped partially around. And what's in the background? Well, what's in the background is a DLR train in soft focus, with this bird crisply caught in the foreground. It's the framing is lovely. So you've got a lovely one third of the position of the center of the bird in there. So it's beautiful. So it's a very satisfyingly framed shot with these sorts of blues, these almost luminescent blues and reds, because they're in soft focus in the background. They do that thing that bright colors do when they're in the background, which is they kind of pop into the image. So it's a situation where actually the bird is in gray and white, and the bright colors in the background, but actually the bird is made to jump out of the screen because of its lack of color in this situation rather than its color. It's really nice. It's a lovely shot. I dread to think what it was about, what or who it was about to attack. That's my only thoughts here. Is what was that seagull after? Because they're quite needy little creatures.
Guess the station first, and then I'll tell you.
Good grief! Oof. I mean, I have so little to go with here. I
know.
Is it going to be somewhere like it's one of the ones that's kind of on the old DLR, the OG DLR somewhere, like one of the ones that's like to the west of Canada Water. So what are those ones? Not the Rotherhithe. That's not the station. What's it called? Oh, I don't know.
Your misery?
Oh God, yeah, put me out of my misery. Go for it.
It's West India Key.
Oh, it's West. Oh, because it's south of there. So it's on the bit that's on its way from Canada. Catch me wrong. It's on the way to Mudshoot. Is that right? Is that West India Key?
Oh, West India Key is one stop away from Canary Wharf, isn't it? I think
it is. So I'm now looking up. I'm now literally as we speak, looking up West India. Oh no, so it is kind of where I was imagining. Oh yeah, okay. So I was kind of. I didn't get the name right, but I did remember vaguely remember the West India Key DLR. DLR. There we go.
I mean, the ideal shot would have been a heron at Heron Key, but that didn't happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. Actually, West India Key is not where it's kind of. West India Key is the thing I was thinking of a station west of. But yeah, West India Key, yeah, that would make sense. The West India Key being the one that's kind of right next to the Crossrail station. In amongst the chaotic junction that goes Poplar in one direction and then off to Westfair in the other. So West India Key, okay, that makes some sense. Yeah, it's like the 4-track station, isn't it? So it's a slightly bigger station.
It's the 4-track station. And it's really, the thing I like about this shot is, well, first, the first thing I like about this shot is it always makes me think of the nuances of knowledge within groups. So I remember once having a freak out because someone posted there's no such thing as a train station, as we all know, in this world. But people will say saying train station is fine. Apparently, now I'm going to have people say no.
No, it absolutely is. I will defend this to the hill. Train station is as correct as railway station. Like they're both equally correct.
Yeah, but can you? I think you were involved in that conversation. I think I posted it when I published my first book. And I posted a picture of me freaking out, going through my pages to make sure I did the right train station. And I didn't. I think I said tube station.
Nice. It's a nice save. Yeah.
But yeah, all of a sudden I was like, because I wasn't aware. And it's a bit like this picture because when you introduced it, you said seagull, and there's no such thing as a seagull. Technically, in a birding world.
Yeah, it's not because it's either a herring gull or it's a blackback gull or
it's a herring gull. Yeah. This one is. And so I like the sort of nuances of groups, and sort of the more you go into it, the sort of the more you sort
knowledge. Yeah, people like it's like your entry question into the club, isn't it? Yeah, and actually we talk about
what is that bird?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we talked when we had Emily on, and Emily and I talked about group knowledge and that we sometimes find these having knowledge that other people don't have or perceive that they don't have is sometimes a comfortable blanket, and it's an interesting, isn't it? So you've got railway station / train station, both correct, with here this seagull, which by the way etymologically it is a seagual because we all call them a seagull, and so that's etymology works that way. If we're all collectively, English is a common use language, if we're all calling it a seagull, it's a seagull, but of course species wise it's a herring gull, fine. And in fact you could probably go more specific than that because there are lots of different herring gulls across Europe and beyond as well. So but it is a lovely, and as you say, it's an image that it's quite a simple image in a way. It's a bird with a suffix in the background. Yeah. But actually it shows how much it's simple on the face of it, seagull, station. But as soon as you start exploring the image, as soon as you start exploring what's going on, it becomes more complicated, and it's quite nice to revel in those complications and actually share in the fact that these different subjects have complexity we can all explore, nerd out about, and so on and so forth. But it's a lovely shot. It's a really lovely shot. The bird's having a great time. Now, this is a book about contrast, so if this is something that's very much short exposure to capture a bloody bird flying through the air, then what are we going to contrast that with? Well, we're going to contrast it with a lovely shot of Luke about to be run over by a tram. This image taken in a safe position, it's safe in the knowledge that the tram A can and B would be stopping at the station, of course. This is also by the fact that you haven't had to set anything up. This is as we've just talked about, you can stand in position and take these sorts of really nice, crisp, long exposure images quite successfully yourself. This is a tram approaching straight onto our faces, but with Therapy Lane very crisply on the front, except that it isn't, because it's being stretched out, almost like a CGI effect, being stretched out into the vanishing point by the fact that the tram is pulling up in your shot.
It's departing, actually.
Oh, it's departing in this shot. Oh, okay, good grief. So so the bright yellowy oranges are actually more reds in the review. So the train, in which case you're definitely not getting run over. You've stood behind a departing train and therefore are extremely safe from not being run flat.
I wouldn't stand in front of a tram. I wouldn't stand in front of any vehicle, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Can trams reverse, actually?
They not without the lights changing and them doing a very loud ding ding. They can reverse, yeah, but the driver also would have to walk through, and the driver they would probably sort of stick their head out and say, Luke, mate, you're in. Yeah, I know what you're doing. No, I'm about to move that way. Can you? Oh yeah, thanks. This is Church Street tram stop down in Croydon. And look at this, it's very nice, isn't it? Tram 253, again, the greens. But actually, the greens are a secondary colour in this image, because you've got greens on the signage and the stickers on the ticket tap-in device. But actually, the most prominent colours here are a kind of a really nice sort of quite a bright blue, actually, for nighttime. It's that kind of light pollution city sky, that sort of blue colour, and that kind of rich yellowy orange color of the kind of the dot matrix sign on the train and the dot matrix sign on the kind of the station halt. So yeah, it's really, really nice. I love this. It's great.
Yeah, it's basically the tram drivers hit the secret warp speed button on the tram,
and it's off.
And then zooming off. Yeah, I love this shot, because I'm sort of getting the tram departing. And it's completely static, so you've got the initial solid.
Yes, that explains why. Yes, that explains why you've got that solid start. Yeah,
zooms off, and that's why you've got it a bit like the reverse Star Wars. Star Wars entrance.
Yes, when they arrive. That's kind of what tricked me, is that it looked a bit like the arrival of a train coming out of hyperspace. But actually, no, this is the opposite. It's the opposite special effect. It's a train. It's the tram disappearing off into warp speed. If I'm going to mix my technologies,
because it's just a bit of an outrageous sort of capture of time. That's why I like short exposure and long exposure. Both are different kind of visual representations of time. One is freezing a moment, and one is prolonging a moment, and they sort of articulate it visually differently. And that's why those two images are both playing with time in a sort of unique kind of way, because you don't see a bird static in motion, and neither do you see a vehicle like this zooming off into the distance. And so that's one way you can sort of be playful with photography.
Yeah, it is playful. It's a word that constantly comes back in your imagery. Luke, it's just such a lovely selection you've given us. It's just really a delight. Thank you so much for. It's worth saying, it's very special that Luke actually lets me have these photos for us to talk through, because these should be, you can go on and see all. Luke shares lots of these online as well. You can follow Luke on all of his socials, which we'll come to in a moment. But yeah, for me to have a look at these and for us to deep dive these images, which are of course in the book, is an absolute delight. I'm going to very briefly bring you up and say, no, that's my horrible face. You don't want that. Let's get rid of that. We want both of our faces here. Luke, thanks so much for that. I'll do the usual plugs, and then we'll talk a little bit about books in a moment. But just before we do that, I just want to say thanks for sharing those with us, and it's great. It's a delight. As I say, everyone can go and. We'll do proper plugs in a second, but here it is. This is the beautiful book, Contrast Photography in the London Underground. If I get my fingers out of the way, there we go. Well worth picking up. I will do the usual plugs before we chat to Luke a little bit more about books, and then I'll let you go as we bust the hour open. So, the usual outros. The audio-only people, hopefully in describing these images, I've still given you a compelling bit of content, and it kind of worked. And I do enjoy these episodes for being audio-only. I'd be fascinated for someone to kind of recreate what I've described from first principles of what we've described in image, and see what it looks like compared to the images that then appear. GarethDennis.co.uk/merch for the merchandise, GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord for the Discord server. Hello everyone in the chat. PayPal.me/GarethDennis for loose change and abuse, and Patreon supporters, as ever, thank you so much. Patreon.com/GarethDennis. You help these happen. Talking of books, I'm not going to do a big book plug because it's ridiculous to plug my own book at the same time as plugging yours. But yes, the book still very much out there. Please do go buy. Pester Waterstone's mostly about it, because those guys have missed the boat, and they need more pestering to realise that they can and should buy the book. But in terms of, if we're really going to talk about books, actually, what's funny, I'm going to briefly go, but look at this. What they make a lovely pair, these two, as I reach over. Isn't it? A nice pair, a little Christmas bundle, a little Christmas hamper that you could, get your relatives. So these two, kind of very nice little pairing. It is. Look at these, lovely. No.
Yeah. So how does it feel being an author now?
It's cool, actually, isn't it? It's really nice having something that's out there that people can. I'm going to briefly go back to, but I'll have our two little faces in the corner. So here is your collection of 3 books at the moment. It's really cool having something out there, right, that people can pick up, that people are familiar with. I've realized that I really love signing books. Like I always thought it was a nice thing to do, but I didn't realize how much I really enjoy that process of having a chat with someone who has your book, something that you've thrown your life and soul into, and they're going to read it and enjoy it and take something from it, and they want you to put a little message in. That's so lovely. It's such a lovely thing. And so if people have, all 3 of these books are available. I have quick access. I've got 2 of them. I think your 3rd book I think it's probably down, if I can see it down the other side behind me. They make a fine collection, these 3.
Thank you.
Just
nice
lovely.
For your coffee table.
Coffee tables, but also wherever, they're just a nice thing. They're just a really nice thing. Instead of doom scrolling, you can put your phone down, you can have your coffee and your bit of the kind of fancy chocolate. You can sip your coffee, your evening decaf sort of instant coffee that is my usual nighttime routine these days, and my little bit of chocolate, and just have this and just go through it and enjoy the beauties of the beautiful different images, the beauty and the interest, and also the cheeky little twinkle in Luke's eye when you can just imagine Luke grinning as he takes some of these images and I'm not going to get another one like that again. That was fab. Those sorts of moments, of which there are plenty in the book. They're just really nice moments like that. But a genuine delight. So the process of the book, it's interesting, isn't it? It's out there. It's on shelves. People can go and buy it. They can. It's just such a strange experience.
It's out there. You can buy it on most online bookshops that exist. I also sell a signed version with a print on my website, tubemapper.com, if you want it that way. But if you want it quickly, all of the online bookstores sell it as well.
It's fab. It's out there. People can get it. So. Getting rid of our little faces. The last little plug for me is, yes, still co-host of WTRP. We'll have another episode coming out soon, but Morpeth is still out there for you to go and enjoy and watch and be entertained by. It's the last episode we did. And next week will be the last live episode the last live episode of the year will be next week, episode 243, a festive news roundup and some other stuff. We'll have our Christmas hat on, we'll have the jingle bells going, everyone can eat mince pies, we're going to gather around, talk about what's gone on through the year, talk about what's fun and what we've got to look forward to in 2025. It's not going to be all doom and gloom. We're going to have some fun stuff to talk about. I look forward to it. It's going to be a nice little roundup, a relaxed roundup with everyone sort of catching up and looking forward to what's ahead. That's for that. But I must come back to Luke and say, Luke, thank you so much for joining us. An absolute delight. I hurry up and get the next book out so we can do the next one of these, of course. So it's
Well, I always do calendars, so that's every year. So there's always a Tube Mapper calendar.
There's always
I'll have to think of the next theme.
Don't rush. The delight of these is that they work really well because it's not contrived. Like, it feels really nice that they're such a natural fit of the story that the pictures tell. So do not rush into the next one. But when the next book kind of comes to life, you know where we are. It'll be a delight to have you back and to do another one of these, Luke, because I love these. I just love these episodes. They're so nice. Luke Agbaimoni, everyone, just an absolute delight. It only really remains for both of us, Luke, unless you have any further plugs that you want to do, of course. I'll
just do the usual thing, which is I'm Tube Mapper on pretty much everything. I've even got a TikTok account, but I don't dance, so don't think I'm going to do that. Although Gareth is going to start a TikTok account where he's going to do some dance moves. So
that's planned. That is in the works. Yeah, absolutely. So Yeah, people have been
And
asking.
the books, if you just type in Tube Mapper into like any bookstore, you'll find all my books there. So yeah, that's an easy way to find it. But yeah, I'm like Gareth. I'm constantly online. We both are enjoying Blue Sky at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, it's doing a bit of Blue Sky, kind of
So
transitioning
find
over
us
to
on
Blue Sky.
We still seem to be on the Twitter site. I still see you on there.
It's still on fire, but until it's completely burned down, I'll still be hanging around. Yeah,
that's what I'm like. I'm there to the end. So
that's it.
It's
until
fun.
it's gone.
I just like conversing online. I find it really funny. I like the text social media ones the best. Blue Sky, Twitter, and
which for a photographer is quite interesting actually. But so it's
stories. You just get people will then tell you about the images, and they'll go, oh yeah. Especially train drivers and sort of people who work on a railway, they'll give you sort of this insight knowledge of like, oh, there's this great view here, or at this time this happened.
That's
picture
good.
of the roundel projection at Nine Elms that I got. That was because someone had told me that the light is amazing. You know, the chances of me encountering that would have been quite rare. So yeah, by interaction, it helps organically your photography to grow.
Fantastic. Terrific. Luke, an absolute delight. It only remains for the two of us to vigorously wave ourselves out and say cheerio. Everyone, thanks so much for watching. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Bye.